Tutorial time! Let's learn how to collect ancient coins. And today we're looking at coin attributions. Why is it very important for you to do it for every single coin you have? What kinds of information you need for a full coin attribution and how to do it. Now, why do we want to do this? You see, we're coin collectors. We're not just accumulating coins. And what differentiates a numismatist, someone who understands coins, who enjoys this hobby to the fullest, from a simple hoarder, is that every single coin in your collection, it should talk to one another. They need to be linked in some sort of set, some kind of, internal narrative that drives you to collect these coins. Ideally, every coin in your collection needs to make sense, because these are some fairly complicated objects to understand, and we need a standardized way to make sense of our coins in order for them to do this talking between one another, and for you to not only understand all of the incredible things your coin has to teach you, but also as a way for you to communicate to other collectors what you have. It's better that I illustrate what I mean with an example. Here, we have these two coins. We don't know a lot about them. We're just going to look at them. Both of them have portraits. From looking at the portraits, the more attentive of you might have guessed both were made by maybe like the same character who's portrayed in them. Both of them, it looks like it's the same person. But let's assume for now that we're absolute beginners and we don't know anything about them. So first, let's look at this smaller one. He has the bust of this man, this emperor, looking to the right. He has something on his head. We can see on the lower part of his portrait that he's wearing some specific type of clothing, and there are legends around the portrait. And upon inspection, the letters look remarkably similar to our modern Western alphabet. I'm not going to look at the reverse for this time, for the sake of simplicity in this explanation. We then move on to this larger piece. Now, simply by looking at the portrait, it looks like this is indeed the same emperor, but these coins are remarkably different. First of all, much larger coin. So we need to assume this is probably a completely different denomination, a different face value. The portrait is also of a different style. It's like if it was done in a different artistic school of portraiture. And the legends, the letters around the bust, are certainly of a different alphabet, which would imply this was maybe made at a different geographical area. So same character in these two coins, but most likely not minted in the same place, even if we're just making assumptions for now. What we have here is a typical situation where lots of people starting out on this hobby might feel overwhelmed, because as we can see, these two coins are sort of like, we can see they're linked between them. They feature the same character on them. It feels like maybe they belong in the same collection or like some kind of set, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. At least at first sight, we're left with more questions than answers, unless I have some kind of universal way of describing these coins, like a universal coin ID card, which I can use as, once again, a universal way of making sense of every coin I come across. If I have a universal way of describing coins, I can not only understand coins better individually, I can see when it was made, where it was made, what's supposed to be on it, but with this ID card, it also helps us connect one coin to another, turning any two or more coins from just an accumulation of coins into an actual collection that makes sense and links coins. And this is what a coin attribution is. It is this ID card. So let's go over every single one of the items that a full attribution must have. I'll explain you why it is important to keep track of every one of these bits of information for every coin you own. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will have this basic framework that will help you understand your coins better, as I said, like individually and as part of a collection. Like, I can't stress enough how much of a powerful tool to your disposal this universal attribution format is, because basically it helps you make sense of anything you come across. So let's use the first coin I shown as our test subject, as our little guinea pig, the smaller silver coin. And by the way, before we start, if you are a beginner collector or you want to start collecting ancient coins and you don't know where to start, I would encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter. You can find the link to it in the pinned comment or in the video description. I share lots of tips and tricks on how to collect ancient coins there. It's tons of value and it should help you greatly in your own journey. Also, remember to leave a like and subscribe if my content provides you with some value. It really helps the channel grow. Okay, back to the topic. Here on your screen now is a list of the items that we need to have in our attribution. There's more information you could potentially put in here, but what you see is the bare minimum. We can break these items down into three main types of information, like three subcategories. We have geographical and temporal information on the coin, so who, where, and when it was made. We have the physical description of the coin, things like weight, size, metal, and we have the iconographic/catalog references. Each of these is going to help us out in different ways. We need to cover them individually, and we need to gather all of this information. We can't leave any of these items out. I'll do a bit of a counterintuitive move first, and I'll start with the very last item of this list, the catalog reference, because I think it's super important. Now, a catalog number is the identification number assigned to your coin type in one of the main catalogs about that type of coin that have been published. One of the best things about numismatics is that this is an old hobby, and there have been generations of nerds like you and I studying and writing about coins for centuries. Pretty much every single type of coin under the sun has been cataloged by at least someone. The authors of these catalogs have had the job of going through multiple museum collections, private collections, auction listings. They then compiled an extensive list of all of the types of coins that were available for that particular niche of coins, every single portrait variety, variation of legends, kinds of obverse and reverse, denominations, mint marks, literally thousands upon thousands of coins. They then neatly organized them in some sort of order. Normally it's chronological. They got pictures of every single one of them, condensed all of this into one book, and published it on different catalogs so we can understand these coins better without having to go through all of this work. And how does this catalog reference look like? For example, for this first coin I've shown you, spoiler alert, this is a Roman denarius. If you go shopping for a coin similar to it, at the very end of the listing, in the part where it describes the coin, you might be something like this. So in the case of this coin, RIC206. This is the abbreviation for the specific catalog focused on that type of coin, published by someone and considered by the numismatic community to be one of the best reference material for this kind of coin. So in our case, this abbreviation we have here, RIC, stands for a catalog called Roman Imperial Coins. Of course, if you collect some other type of coin, the catalog name will be different, and so will be the abbreviation. It's actually kind of funny. Whenever I find a catalog number on a sales listing for a coin, I think this is actually a green flag for spotting a competent dealer. If the person selling you a coin listed the right catalog number, it means they understand how to do a coin attribution, and that's a good sign you are buying from another numismatist, not just someone flipping the coin for a profit. So just get used to the idea of looking at catalogs. With them, we can understand what is actually on the coin, based on the analysis of an expert, so we don't need to guess it ourselves. And they help us understand the coin like in context, how it fits within the larger economy of the civilization that produced it, the time frame when it was made, what other coins circulated alongside it, what other coin types are available, so you can have an idea of what was going on in there, and you can use this reference, for example, to assemble a set. Of course, they also offer in the pictures an example of another coin of the same type as your own. So you can use this other coin to compare against yours, helping us to confirm if the identification of what we have is correct. You get my point, like this kind of material is really valuable. Whenever you start delving into a new type of coin, do some research for the main types of catalogs for that new type of coin you're interested in, and consider getting the catalog for that coin. With a bit of Googling, you can find many catalogs for free online, but investing in written copies, I think it's worth it. It will be one of your best tools to get acquainted to a new niche of coins. It will give you like this very solid base to learn about the type, the relative rarities, different denominations, what they look like, how to avoid fakes. So yeah, catalogs are awesome. Okay, with that important bit of information out of the way, let's go over the rest of the cataloging of our coin. Let's start with the geographical and temporal parts. We begin with the issuing authority. Who made this coin? The state that made it, and the region it was made, or maybe like the king or ruler that issued it. Basically, who made it? For example, if a coin was made by a city-state, we can state the city and the region where the city is located. For example, I don't know, like Egypt, Alexandria. If it was made by some sort of kingdom, a state that occupied like a larger geographic area, it can be something like, for the case of our coin, Roman Empire, Hadrian. So who? Next, we have the mint location. That's not the issuing authority, it is the actual place where it was made. In the case of our coin, that would be Rome. Next, date of issue. When was this coin made? In our case, 130 AD. And finally, the denomination. Because you see, a coin was a tool. It was issued by this state, the Roman Empire, to facilitate commerce. The coin, the denomination, had a name, it had a value, and that's what we want to list in the attribution. In our case, this is a denarius. By the way, all of that information can be found in the catalogs. Next, we go to the physical characteristics of the coin. The metal, of which metal your coin is made out of. For our coin, that's silver. Next, the weight, how heavy it is. Weight is measured in grams. Numismatics operates in the metric system, so we need grams with 2 decimal places for accuracy. Our coin weighs 3.42 grams, which fortunately means our coin is within the acceptable range for this issue. If you have a coin that sits outside of the typical range for these coins, that doesn't necessarily like immediately condemn it as a fake or like a problem coin, but I mean, these objects were made rather accurately. If it weighs less than what it should, this might represent maybe some kind of defect. It prompts you to investigate the reason for the anomaly. I know this might sound like a nitpicking here, but things like this can affect a coin's market value or even indicate towards a fake. Every single item of an attribution is important and has a reason to be there. Don't skip them. Next, still in the physical characteristics part of it, how large it is in its diameter. Once again, metric system, our coins are measured in millimeters with 2 decimal places of accuracy. By the way, ancient coins are a little bit tricky to measure because they're not perfectly round. So ideally, you want to have like a digital caliper, and you should take into account the largest possible diameter of your coin. So let's say if it is oval in shape, you should measure it at its longest cross-section. This way, when it's time to buy like a capsule or a flip to store your coins in, you know what size to buy. Also, this way you can see how your coin measures up against its peers. If it's too large or too small, we must find out why and determine if this is a defect or not, which will ultimately affect a coin's value. Finally, we get to the iconographical descriptions of our coin. We need to give a description of what's on the obverse and another separate description for what's on the reverse. Here you should be as thorough as possible with the description because quite often, in fact, minor differences in the description of what's on the coin might result in the coin being of one type or another on a catalog, and one might be rarer than the other. So basically you want to be as descriptive and as precise as possible with stuff like the legends, the devices, what is where it is pointed towards. Here's yet another situation where the catalog will help you out a lot because there might be some terminology, some jargon that initially you might not be familiar with. So I'll show you what I mean with our coin here. Let me give you an example of what I would consider like a satisfactory description of the obverse. We have the bust of Hadrian looking right. Emperors can be looking like right, left, forward. We need to specify not only what is present on each side, but also the direction stuff is pointed at. So, bust of Hadrian, right, draped and cuirassed. That means he's wearing a cuirass and draperies over his cuirass, which implies probably that there are variations of this coin that could show him, I don't know, only with draperies, only with his cuirass, maybe just the head without any pieces of clothing. But in our case, he's draped and cuirassed. We also need to spell out the legends. In this case, it's actually quite easy. Hadrianus Augustus. On the reverse, according to the Roman Imperial Coins catalog, we actually have quite a bit of jargon to follow here. It says we have the image of Clementia. She's standing, pointing to the left. She holds a scepter and a patera. And the legends read, Clementia Augustorum consul tertium pater patria. Now, don't worry if you don't understand a lot of this jargon initially. It's just a matter of confirming the attribution with the catalog first, and then once we nail this down, you can, by yourself, Google each of these terms individually, and this way you slowly make your way into making sense about your coin and what's going on in there, and this will slowly build up your ancient coin vocabulary. I mean, for myself as an example, even after 10 years of doing this, I often come across new words, so don't worry about it. After the description of the obverse and reverse, you note, finally, the very last thing, the catalog reference. You need at least one reference number. If you can get more than one catalogs and do like a dual reference, even better. But in this case, let's just take note of one. So in this case, once again, RIC2 206. Boom, there we have it. We have a full attribution of our Hadrian denarius with this complete ID card. This ID card we can use to research this individual coin, or use this coin as like an embryo, a founding stone for your second, third, fourth coins, which will all have connections between them and this coin. So now that we have seen an example of an attribution, why don't we have a look at a practical example of how knowing all of this can help us? Let me circle back to the Hadrian denarius and that other silver coin, apparently from the same emperor that we were looking at in the beginning of the video. Let's have a look at a full attribution of this larger silver piece and see if, based on the two attributions, if we can link these two coins together. Because we said that maybe they were related to one another based on just guessing, but now we're going to actually technically see if they match up. I'll expedite the research process for this one. So in this case, it would be Roman Empire, Hadrian, Cilicia, Aigai, 130 AD, silver tetradrachma, 13.95 grams, 28.25 millimeters of diameter, obverse, cuirassed and draped bust of Hadrian looking right, legends in Greek, interesting. Autocrátoros, Kaisaros, Traianos, Hadrianos, Sebastos. Heading to the reverse, eagle standing with wings open, looking right. Legends, Ethos 187, that's the local dating system, which would be translated to 130 AD in our Gregorian calendar. And finally, Aegaion, meaning of the people of Aigai. And last but not least, the catalog reference for this coin, Prier 719. We can see that this kind of coin is so different, in fact, that it is covered by an entirely different catalog, despite also being a Roman coin. Now, I mean, after this wave of information I've just sent you, you must be like blinking at the screen thinking you didn't understand half of what I just said. And here's the point. It is absolutely fine that you don't understand this. Like, despite initially not understanding much of this coin, just based on, we're just going to base ourselves on the attribution, we can, even with this loose bit of information, we can already make a few accurate assumptions about this tetradrachma, and we can actually connect it to the denarius we've looked at earlier. Despite their significant differences, we've come to the conclusion that these two coins were actually minted around the same time, the year 130 AD, by the same emperor. So we're starting to make sense of these two coins now as a collection. They aren't just like these completely disjointed pieces of metal anymore. They're already linked, like geopolitically. They were issued by the same empire, and they're even linked chronologically. They were made around the same time. So, like, just based on that, we could already use these two coins as the beginning of a collection. Now it's just a matter of being curious. You can ask a bunch of questions, like, what is a tetradrachma? Why does it weigh so different from the denarius? Is there a link between the value of these coins? Lots of questions rise from making this attribution, but the key here is, now you have a focus. You know what questions to ask, you know what you should be looking for, or at least you have a direction in which to look for the right questions to ask. Of course, you have the names of the catalogs that you should be drawing information from. That is going to help you out a lot. And with the attribution, you now have a tool that you can use to make sense of every single ancient coin you cross paths with. And so, here we have it. Attributions. Your coin's own little ID card. If you have a collection already and you haven't done full attributions for all of your coins, this is your calling to be a good numismatist and start doing it for every single coin you have. You see how, like, once you have all of your coins all nicely attributed, you will notice how you enjoy your coins that much better. You have a much better appreciation for your coins, for everything they have to teach you. So, there you have it, another tool to your disposal. I hope you like it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and remember to join the newsletter. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon. Let me give a special thank you to all of my amazing channel members and Patreons for their generous support. This channel would not be the same without your help. And if you would like to be part of this list, have early access to my videos when they are uploaded to YouTube, and a series of other perks, make sure to check out my Patreon page and my members tab on YouTube. Thank you very much.